Dance Bar. Today, on a very special episode, we're going to be talking about the Boulevardier. Now, for those of you who have not seen the movie The Moulin Rouge, you should, it's fantastic. But there's a line in there that always sticks with me, and it is, Coquette au Boulevardier, and it's a great line. It just has such roundness and depth and feeling to it, and it loosely translates to a man about town. Now, the Boulevardier cocktail was actually based on the Negroni, which is essentially the same thing, but sub out the whiskey or rye for a gin. The Negroni starts with a great base. You've got the bitterness from the Amaro and the sweetness from the Vermouth, and it takes that gin and turns it into something that's a little bit deeper, a little bit richer, something with a little bit more oomph behind it, which translates nicely to the man about town, the Boulevardier. It just kind of goes well together. And as we've been talking about, you get the great balance. You get the bitterness, you get the sweetness, and you get a little bit of that overall power punch, just elevating it to a new level. So we're talking about the Boulevardier today. And that totally rhymes. Hey, cool. Anyway, so what we're gonna be doing is about 1.5 parts of our rye today. You could absolutely use a bourbon if you wanted to. Any kind of whiskey, something dark, something heavy that goes well with your vermouth. Then we're gonna use 1 part vermouth and 1 part of our Amaro to go with that. We're gonna be stirring that together so we keep it kind of clear and going into our delightful little coupe to finish off the beverage. So let us go ahead and give it a start. We're gonna go ahead with our freshly washed hands and put in some ice cubes. Pay no mind to these. It's possible that I broke a glass on top of my other ice and had to melt it all and start from scratch. It happens to the best of us. So I've got this ice for the time being, and we're gonna go ahead and put in 1.5 ounces of our rye. And I'm once again using another High West whiskey. High West whiskey. That's a lot of W's in a row. High West whiskey. And it's gonna be a rendezvous rye because I thought for a minute about town, something associated with the Moulin Rouge, the word rendezvous just really worked well with that. It's another dry one from the High West. A lot of their things are rye based. This one is not as much as their double rye. A little bit sweeter, a little bit more pulled back from that. But it's got a lot of flavor, a lot of body behind it, and it's gonna complement our Amaro and our Vermouth very nicely. So we've got 1.5 parts of our whiskey. We're now gonna put in 1 part of our Vermouth, and that's just gonna go right into our same little container there. If you want to, you can also scale up or down the whiskey to make it either 2 parts or 1 part, so they're even all across the board. Really up to you, depending on what kind of balance you like. I would recommend starting with a 1.5, 1, just to kind of see where it goes from there, and then adjust as your palate dictates. We're also going to do 1 part of our Amaro to get our nice bitter component added into that cocktail. Now we're going to go ahead and give this a nice little stir to get it nice and cold before we filter it. And this is going to be done with our super long spoon. You know, the stirring sound really, it doesn't come through nicely. It just sounds like white noise, kind of muffled, and doing it below really just isn't any better either. Anyway, how do you like the new lighting setup? I'm adding some new ones. I made the pie tin light, where you take like a 16-inch pie pan with vertical edges, and then you put like lights all around the inside of that, and then a diffusion screen on the front. And it's like 20 or 30 bucks for a really actually pretty solid, nicely diffused light. And I don't know. I do a lot of photography on the side too, so a lot of the things that I talk about are originating at least somewhat from that. So, you know, you might find that here and there and learn a thing or two there. Also, this is a cocktail that I have not actually made in a very long time. So a lot of these, we're gonna start making new ones that are suggestions from y'all, so thank you so much for suggesting those. And as we go, I'm gonna kind of be figuring out what's good as we go through them. Maybe make some tweaks and some new versions down the road as I kind of find different ways to make them. But so we have our nicely chilled cocktail that's gonna be going into our coupe. And a nice little filter here. You really don't need a strainer. A spoon works just as well. You can just hold the ice back, and it just goes very nicely into there. Isn't that just dandy? So now that we have our cocktail in our coupe, we are going to finish this off with a nice little sliver of orange. So we're going to not show the orange that I cut a previous day. That's going to show a little wound on the other side of this. And we're not even going to try to flame this because that clearly wasn't working. I think what happened with the whole flaming veg, the orange peel thing, is that the orange peel isn't thick enough. And if it's not thick enough, it's not going to give enough inward pressure on those little pockets of oils to be able to give it that little forward power, so it kind of sprays out in the air and can be flamed. So instead it just kind of welled up on the surface and didn't give the pyrotechnics that I was hoping for. It's quite all right, we can make it work anyway, and it was still delicious. As long as you get the oils into the drink, that's really what matters. That's what's gonna give it the flavor, they're gonna float to the surface, give you that nice little aroma on top of your beverage, and now it's gonna slide right down from that perfect little bottom, that little base for us to have everything coming up from, and just be that deliciousness and delightfulness. So now we have our Boulevardier. Tasty. I did a little bit too much of the vermouth, so it's a little bit too sweet. From the balance perspective, I can taste the Amaro, but it's not quite as forward as I'd like. I think I also might bump it up to maybe 2 parts, so two parts, 1 part, because I like it a little bit more alcohol forward. So again, depending on what you happen to like, but I think I would do a little bit more of the whiskey, a little bit less of the vermouth. And I do like a little bit more bitters, but I think it's a good amount of that. So I think 2 on 1 is going to be a good bet. So yeah, that's what I've got. I hope you all are having a great week. I'm just kind of working from home, doing the thing here, and I hope that y'all are able to get things done and go outside for a walk around the block and then back inside because social distancing, it's a good thing. Keep doing it. There's also a lot of streaming musicians that are streaming concerts all over the area. Go take a look at them. They're really solid. I've been pretty impressed by them, and you know, the more you can interact with people, whether it's virtually or otherwise, the better. So the more you can do, the more cocktails you can have to accompany your little virtual happy hours, the better. So keep making cocktails, keep enjoying it. Until next time, cheers.